Hi, this is Kara from the Special Needs Mom podcast.
And this is Angela from Especially Organized, Sensible Solutions for Special Needs Moms.
We have this heart for special needs moms. And so we thought, you know what, let's combine forces. And we have come up with what we're calling the Purge Party. And you can pretty much guess what it is. It's a party where we're going to come together and we're going to purge or, in general, accomplish a goal, a small goal together. So we have set this for January 27th, starting at 8 o'clock for my Pacific Coast people,
which means 11 o'clock for all of you on the East Coast. So this is an opportunity. If you have something on your to-do list that has just been stuck there and you are wanting to move it up on the list, you're wanting to tackle, maybe it's a space or an area of your home or a category in your home that has just needed a little time and attention. This is your opportunity for you to be online with us while you work and have access for us to help you answer your questions, help guide you, and just serve you for those 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can tell like what we've designed is just this very high level of support for that project that you just haven't been able to tackle on your own. The thing that we are envisioning is that you get to leave this purge party feeling so accomplished because you did the thing. You started the year off getting that thing done that you were stuck on last year. And so it's a momentum builder, if you will. You can go ahead and sign up. We have a link ready for you, and we are offering this for $40 for the whole experience.
Absolutely. And we hope you'll join us. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a great group of moms of special needs kids. So we all get each other. We all have an understanding of what it's like to have something on our to-do list, but just we haven't been able to tackle it yet. So I hope that you will join us. We're super excited to bring this to you, and we are thrilled to work with you.
All right. We'll see you all there. Hi, I'm Kara Riska, life coach, wife, and the mother of 4 incredible and unique kids. It wasn't all that long ago that my son received a diagnosis that had my world come crashing down. I completely lacked the ability to see past the circumstances, which felt impossible, and the dreams I once had for my life and family felt destroyed. Fast forward past many years of surviving and not at all thriving, and you'll see a mom who trusts that she can handle anything that comes her way and has access to the power and grace that once felt so completely lacking. I started the Special Needs Mom podcast to create connection and community with moms who find themselves up against what feels impossible. My intention is to spark the flare of possibility in your own life and rekindle the dreams that you hold impossible now. This isn't a podcast about your special needs child. This is a podcast about you. If you're a mom who feels anxious, alone, or stuck, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Welcome back. I'm excited for this episode. I so thoroughly enjoyed the conversation I had with our guest, Melanie Oates, and you're absolutely going to fall in love with her as well. Melanie is a nonprofit founder, speaker, and advocate for special needs families, including her own. She's a single mom, and on top of that, she has twins, both with their unique medical needs. One of her children is living with autism, and the other has a rare genetic disorder, which requires 100% adult assistance for her to thrive. And in 2019, she founded Here for a Reason, HFAR for short, which is a nonprofit on a mission to eliminate the financial impact when living with a rare condition or disability. Something it sounds like she knows firsthand. HFAR offers 6 different programs, including durable medical equipment, incontinence supplies, travel assistance, enteral feeding, adaptive vehicle assistance, and financial relief. In less than 2 years, HFAR has impacted over 100 families. It's incredible and helps from anything from paying rent to providing them with gas cards to get to their appointments. Like I said, you're going to be inspired by this mom, but it's also a very real conversation. She lets us into what it's like for her through the whole journey, through the ups and the downs, and I know that you're going to leave the episode so inspired. I'm going to offer something special at the very end. So make sure you stick around till the end. And if I don't say it later, happy Thanksgiving. Tomorrow's the big day. Well, Melanie, thank you so much for being here today. I love that I keep meeting such amazing people on Instagram. I think people are going to hear this on every episode, but that's how we got connected. And I just thank you for raising your hand when I said, "Hey, does anyone want to be on the podcast?" So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Anytime an opportunity opens and I can share more awareness, hey, count me in.
I love it. I love it. Sign me up
Yeah.
without even knowing what it is. And in some cases, I'm sure, right? So I would love to hear just more about your life and just give us a glimpse of what your day-to-day life is like. Maybe share with us anything you want us to know about your kids specifically, but just give us a little glimpse.
Yeah, my life day to day is pretty much unpredictable. Even I used to be this person that had to go by a schedule, had my planner. This is going to be this time allotted for this. Yeah, that's not how it works out. So, um, I luckily right now with COVID, I do have the appreciation of being in one central place. But it does come with a lot. So my kids are in virtual school. With us being in Maryland, we have the option for virtual school. I chose that route. And my daughter has a nurse, so I have the help with her. I do have a 9 to 5 job, which is really like a 9 to 10, 9 to 11, or whatever they're done with me.
Where did
Uh,
this 9 to 5 thing ever come about anyhow, right?
I know that doesn't exist. But yeah, overall, day to day, it's unpredictable, but for the most part, we stay above water, especially right now with COVID. A lot of changes and everything, but overall, um, I have the help of nurses, so that helps tremendously. They help with that routine that some parents, have to go by. So I'm grateful for that. But still, my son is here. I'm here for work. But overall, yeah, it's pretty steady day.
Yeah, so it's like steady within unsteady, it sounds like, with like the way that your life, you just accepted that your life is going to go all different places.
Mhm.
And what are the things that you notice that kind of make it so unpredictable for you?
Really, on a professional side with my job, I work in IT. So if anybody can think about computers or anything technical, something can go wrong at the drop of a dime, right? My role is on an escalated level, but it still has to do with things breaking. So that is when I start my day on the 9 to 5-ish job, it's not a set schedule, right? So
No, it's
it,
I can imagine it's not set at all because you
it's
can't
not.
predict when something's going to break down.
Exactly. And then with my kids, with virtual school, sometimes the system is down or the nurse is running behind, or my daughter is just not in the mood at all. So that just throws it off. And when she's not in the mood, it's like, wait. So everything gets adjusted around her.
When she's not in the mood. I love it.
Uh-huh.
And so are you working virtually right now? Are you able to do your job at home?
I am, yes. The one of many jobs, but yes.
Yeah, the job that you get paid for and that helps pay your bills.
Yes, luckily, I'm grateful to work from home. Even when we were in the non-COVID world, with the commute wise goes, I just worked 15 minutes away from my house. So it was a pretty smooth transition from a work standpoint. But yeah, I'm able to work from home.
I'm very glad to hear that. That makes me, I guess, just thankful for you that you have been able to move through the COVID. Because I know that you're a single mom. You're doing this on your own,
Mhm.
and so I can't imagine actually supporting both the needs of the kids and holding the complete needs of the entire family on your back. So how, as we've just talked about, you're working mom. What makes this work for you? How do you hold all that you hold? And I know a lot of people probably ask that. We're like, oh, how do you do it all? And I think a lot of us special needs moms are like, well, we just do it. Like it's not really an option. But I guess what I'm looking and asking that question is like, what helps you the most to handle all that you handle?
I would have to say understanding that I have to have a balance. So even though I've kind of reiterated, that I don't know what my day is going to look like. It's unpredictable. I still got to keep that balance in there some way. So the example when I talked about my daughter, when she's not in the mood, I got to be balanced. And all right, school teachers, she's going to see y'all tomorrow, because I won't say I can't function, but it's very difficult to continue working, continue trying to put out fires at my job while I have, a screaming child because she doesn't want to watch whatever they're showing on Nearpod at the school
Mm-hmm.
system,
Mm-hmm.
so that remembering the balance in it all is key. And there's things that I've dealt with in my past, like mental illness, mental health scares, keeping that in mind and remembering, hey, Melanie, don't go back to that old girl. Don't you do it. So I got to remember
Don't you
that
do it.
balance.
I love how you talk about it. I can actually picture you talking to yourself about like, don't you do it.
I do. Yeah.
So balance. I definitely hear that. And I think a lot of us, when we hear balance, we think even Steven 50-50, but that doesn't sound like that's what you're describing. So what are you describing what does balance mean for you?
Balance for me really just means I'm still able to see clearly and focus clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be, there's if I have an event at work or something, this is just an example, right? If there's an event, or not even a meeting at work,
Mm-hmm.
if I know that I need to be present, right, and not just be sitting there on Zoom, not really saying anything, but being present, I got to make sure I have a clear mind and a clear head. So even though that balance might look like this,
Mm-hmm.
it might not be 50-50 on that scale. Mentally, for me, that key importance of still being able to be focused, still being able to remember the check marks that I have to complete for the day, that's key. And that equates to my balance. I might miss some things that I wanted to do, that I, thought I'd get to in the day. But from a balance standpoint, as long as I can see clearly, think clearly. Example, this morning, I felt like I was going to have a panic attack. Hey, world. Hey, kids. Nurse, I'm going upstairs to go lay down for like 2 hours, including
Mm-hmm.
work. Like, y'all will see me in a little bit, because I can't see. I can't function. I can't think clearly.
Yeah.
I got to remember me and everything. And that's where the balance comes into.
Yeah, I love that example. And even just what you pulled from today, the real life, what it looks like to create the balance. It doesn't sound like it doesn't just, I mean, we know that it doesn't just happen. And so it's actually great to hear a tangible example of what it looks like for you to create the balance. The other thing I hear in kind of when you're speaking about balance is that you're approaching it offensively versus defensively. And what I mean by that is what I hear is that the way that you have gone in, like the way that you go into this meeting is thinking, okay, I need to have a clear mind. And in order to have a clear mind, you've done whatever you needed to do to have that clear mind. And like the example from this morning, like you knew that you needed to take a time out. Like you needed to put yourself like on the bed to restore, it sounds like, clarity, and like maybe even like it sounds like you said you're like, I can't, this is not going to work. And so it sounds like, does that make sense what I mean when I talk about offense?
Yeah, absolutely. It does. And, I wish that I could be one of those people that, says, oh, you know what, I'm going to go on my deck and do some yoga and do some Pilates, or, declare. That's not me. And that was one thing I had to learn too. I tried that because I would hear all these things, Zen and all that, and not knocking yoga at all. I tried it. It hurts me. I'm not doing it right. So I was like, no, this does not clear my head. It hurts. Um,
That
but
was awesome.
realizing what is it going to be for me that helps me, not Susie or whoever that is telling me, try this, try that. Melanie, you got to do what's going to work for you. And
I
for me,
love
it is
that.
that checking out, time out, whether it's being selfish, or I don't think it's selfish, but I would have to remember me. And
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up that selfish word, because I think that's where so many of us moms go to when we're trying to take care of ourselves, is like worried that we're being selfish, or questioning if, like, confusing self-care with selfish. And so I guess just thanks for giving some voice to that even though you're able to do that and give yourself that 2 hour break, that it still comes up for you, so that we can normalize it. Yep, it's going to come up. Like we're going to have that sneaky suspicion in the background that maybe this is not what we're supposed to do, but we get the opportunity to override that. And
Yeah,
it sounds like you more often choose to override that than not.
absolutely.
So well done on that. Since you are doing this on your own, you're a single mom. I would be curious to know where, I mean, obviously you've been successful. You are obviously a functioning mom, and I've seen your children on the gram, and they're so well loved and taken care of. But I also wonder if you can look a little bit at what you might stop at when it comes to trying to do it on your own, or maybe where you might stop when it comes for asking for help, since I imagine you've had to push through a lot to get to where you're at today.
Yeah. I think for me, you're kind of asking like, how do I know what my limit is gonna be? Is that what you
No, it's a
mean?
little bit different. So what I'm asking at is like, so you like this morning as an example, you like gave yourself the 2 hour break,
Mhm.
but I'm asking where you might still be limiting yourself when it comes to giving yourself what you need or caring for yourself.
I gotcha. And more so meaning, like there's always room for improvement. Where am I lacking at making sure I
Yeah,
take?
we all have places that we're comfortable going to, and you've gotten to the place, like in terms of exercise, like you've gotten to the place of getting comfortable to be able to take that 2 hour break, just like someone that runs every day gets comfortable running the distance that they run, and that is no longer challenging for them. But what I'm looking at, because I know that you've accomplished a lot in this area, I'm looking at where you might still be stopping short and like allowing yourself to say, "Oh, I've done enough," or "I'm good,"
Mm-hmm.
when maybe there's an opportunity to receive more.
Yeah, I think for me, I stop myself when it comes to creativity, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's things that I used to do, and if you were to go on my timeline on Instagram and go a little deeper, um, you would see that I used to do a lot of blogging. I would write out more of what I was going through. I would do, skits and little things that related to what I dealt with,
Mhm.
but putting it either in a written form or either in a comedic form. And those things would actually help me, right? And they were helping other people. And I didn't realize that until people started, messaging me, "Oh my gosh, that is so relatable," and "Wow, can I use this on my blog?" and da da da, like that type of stuff. But I have limited and stopped myself on going further and kind of going back into that more expressive Melanie,
Mhm.
because when I have thought about, okay, you know what, example today, like using the example today, I took the 2 hours, I didn't do anything, I just laid in the bed. That's enough. I could push myself and easily write a blog about how that helped me. So that could help somebody else. Or, think about a comedic skit as it relates to what I just dealt with. That's a creative thing in me. And a lot of people tell me that about myself. You're creative, yada, yada, yada. But in my head, I'm like, look, I can only do so much.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm creative. Yes, it's super helping others. Um, but in my head, only being me, that selfish moment, I've done enough. I'll do it another day. But I could be really helping other families and other moms or their dads, whoever, by being more expressive, going that extra mile, spending that 30, 45 minutes writing out, a 700, not 750 pages, 750
Yeah.
word
I saw where
blog,
you're going. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
To express. So yeah, you actually got me thinking. One, I don't realize why it was so hard for me to understand your question.
No, it's not.
um, Probably a sign from God, like throwing, well, duh, you know, she wanted you to dig deeper. This kind of is like counseling session now, therapy.
I know. I should give people more of a warning that sometimes I make them work a little bit hard in these conversations. No, but I actually think you've hit on something really interesting. And what I hear is that you have the thought, "Hey, I could do this," as far as writing a blog about today. And I hear both sides. I hear, for one, that you actually do enjoy the creative expression, that you found value from that, that it helped you first. And that's kind of what started you doing that. But now I also hear a touch of, now it's like almost like well, since it helps people, I should do this, versus having it be something that fills you first. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What does it make you think about just that concept?
Kind of just feel bad a little bit, but good at the same time. Because it's a prime example of, Melanie, you're doing exactly what you have told yourself as far as saying no, setting those boundaries, whether it's boundaries for other people or boundaries for myself with what I take on. That's an example of an extra load, right? Another bag, on my shoulders, the blog, the skit, the whatever. And it is enjoyable, but I want to make sure that I'm doing it with purpose in my heart, not just, oh, let me just do it just to do it. I know it's going to help somebody. But like you mentioned, I want to make sure I'm fulfilled while I'm doing it so it doesn't feel forced.
Yeah. Like the picture I got when you're describing that is like doing it as your cup is overflowing and having it be the result of what you've created in your life and having it just kind of spill all over everybody else, versus doing it to fill your cup. Or even worse, doing it to fill other people's cup when your cup is empty.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's sometimes hard for us to distinguish which one's which. Like I was actually just working with a client today and she was expressing like, oh my gosh, I've just been really tired. This time change has totally thrown me off. And we were talking about her schedule tomorrow, like what she was going to decide to ask herself to do, and kind of toying between like, okay, like, are you going to decide ahead of time that you're going to rest? Or are you going to decide that you're going to do the schedule that you had already decided you're going to do? And there's no right or wrong answer. But when we look at the reason behind whichever one we do choose, it can be very revealing as to like what's driving us. And so something to look at is like really liking your reason behind it. And it sounds like today when you didn't blog, because you were resting, that if you would have asked yourself the question, like, why are you not doing this? How would you answer that now? As far as why did you decided not to blog today and you decided to rest?
Um, because I put me first. I was
There you
being,
go. And do you like that reason?
I'm okay with it because I really want to make sure I stick by that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll fill in, if there's a little gap or a little hole opportunity. They don't present themselves often, but I'll do
Mm-hmm.
that as best as I can. But I don't feel bad.
Yeah.
I don't feel as though, darn, I missed the opportunity. Because I'm a strong believer that everything does happen for a reason. So when I do get that opportunity to share my thoughts written, in a written form in a blog or whatever the case may be, that means that's that time that it should have been done.
Mm-hmm.
So um, that kind of helps my comfort level as far as the feeling behind me laying for 2 hours, literally just laying and not doing anything, but getting my mind right
Yeah.
for what's coming next. Yeah, versus racking my brain on, oh shoot, I had the time. I should have done this. I could have done that. I could have done. Mm-mm.
Yeah. That conversation sounds like it actually would have been, or I mean, that easily could have taken more energy away from you in that 2 hour rest
Mhm.
versus giving you like, hey, I like the reason I'm relaxing and just giving myself 2 hours. Thanks for sharing that insight into that, because I think it's something that a lot of us moms kind of grapple with on kind of like trying to decide what we're doing and then like why we were doing it, and then feeling really good about what we're doing instead of feeling guilty the whole time when we actually do rest.
Mhm.
Because that happens too, right? You don't even enjoy what you're doing because you're like shooting yourself the whole time. So, yeah, thank you for the insight. Well, it's funny because I was going to mention earlier, people would have heard in your bio that it's not like you're just sitting around on the couch when you're not working. So you work like 60 hours plus, is my understanding, a week. You have two children with significant needs. And on the side, you've started a foundation, nonprofit. So talk to us a little bit about that and why that was so important to you.
That's my baby, my third baby.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I have two. I really wanted to start the nonprofit, and it's called Here for a Reason, because being a single mom, I dealt with a single working mom, right? I did all these things. I have all these, I won't say accolades, but I got a degree, computer science. That's a very
I was going to say, I feel like if anyone, when someone looks at your website, it's fairly easy to see that you have a lot of accolades. I was like, wow, look at this woman.
Yeah. So, thinking about what it took me to get to that point, and like I mentioned earlier in the conversation, I went through bouts of depression. That's the mental illness I was talking about, depression, and that's very real.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to mention that.
Yeah,
So
thank you for mentioning
after
that.
going through that and getting past that hurdle, starting college, getting pregnant in college, I was married and pregnant. And then finishing my degree after having my kids. And the kids that I have, like you said, they have very significant needs, especially my daughter, when we were trying to figure out, well, what really is wrong with her. That takes a lot out of your day research. But anyway, being able to get a computer science degree, have a working job, move hundreds of miles away because of my marital status, it dissolved. I really wanted to make sure that I could really fulfill my dreams, right? Not the mom, not the nonprofit founder, but Melanie's dreams. And
Mm-hmm.
Melanie's dreams have been to be in IT, be a female in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, being that person. And I'm doing that now. However, on the flip side of that, as a mom to two kids with significant needs, especially with Janelle with her rare condition, it comes with a lot. So with me working, yes, I have insurance, but we got a lot of denials. No, your insurance won't cover this. You got to pay out of pocket for that. When I needed help from other foundations and organizations, I'm sorry, we can't help you. We're not looking, we can't help that condition. You need to be in this particular state. You make too much money. Like there was a lot of no, 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 no. So I founded the organization because I wanted to be able to help others who've been in my shoes. And it doesn't just only, help individuals that, are in STEM, single parents. It's bigger than that. It's for individuals who really just need that final straw of help. They've searched everywhere. They've found these big organizations and they're not helping them. But we want to be able to help others without their income being a problem, without their condition being a problem, without their age being a problem. We do not a background check, but there's a process. You have to apply, a review, and all that. We look at the medical information, so you can't just say, "Oh, I need help, give me the money." You got to go through the process. But at the same point in time, there's not as many restrictions, and it's very important for me to continue to help others in that way, just because I know what it feels like to just be stuck, right? And I have a degree. I work in IT, but we needed help.
Yeah.
So what? Stop looking at the paycheck. That money goes to other stuff. My daughter's medical expenses, her bed is $5,000 and $2,000 here and $3,000 here. Mortgage, like there's all these other things that people just, laser point on. Oh, well, you make this much, so you should be able to afford that, or you don't live in this region, or you own a house, you can't help homeowners, you need to have rent, all these little caveats. I didn't want to.
I totally get what you're saying. I feel like it's a weird place to be in, to be college educated and like otherwise very, very functional and successful. Like if you're someone that's going to look at you as a professional person, but what I hear you saying or describing is something I've experienced as well. It's like you just can't describe the financial load that comes with having children that have these needs. Because as you said, it's the beds, it's all the extra things that come into play with what these kids need to thrive. And I know in our experience that it was, there's a lot of therapies and support that fall outside of insurance that are so beneficial. And that's when things really start to rack up. And when it comes to having to say no to your child on something that would help them, that's when having the extra support, because we've had a lot of extra support in our journey, there's nothing that feels better on having somebody help you, come alongside you and say, yeah, we can make that happen. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like this made the biggest difference for my child. And even, I mean, yes, the financial thing is a huge thing, but it also sounds like your foundation, do you call it a foundation or organization? Organization really comes alongside people and to really understand where they're at, which, as we know, is kind of priceless.
It is. And one thing too with the organization, we also help in ways that are often forgotten about. So right now we're getting ready to kick off it's actually finishing, but it's called a gas giving.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So gas giving, basically we're giving 100 families that have children with significant needs gas cards. It costs money to drive 30 miles, 60 miles. If you unfortunately have to do different treatments and go twice a week, but have to go to the facility, like that costs money. And people don't think about gas, but that's a huge expense. And depending on what state, like in my state, they do have other organizations, but if you have a car registered to your house, whether the car works or not, if you have a car and it's still registered to your house, you're disqualified. They can't help you. So it's
like I hear like the frustration of like how there are organizations, and I have experienced this as well, but like you have to be in such bad shape to qualify. And by all means, I'm glad that some people, well, actually, I'm not glad that some people qualify because they're in really bad shape. And I get why these organizations have to limit it. However, I think, for something like the gas card giveaway, and actually, when are you ending it? Because I'd love to put a link on this episode so we can connect people to that.
Yeah, well,
still be open next week? No, week of Thanksgiving.
No, we're ordering them on the 16th. They can still donate to our organization.
That's true.
The gas cards are part of our travel assistance program. So instead of 100 people individually applying, we're in bulk giving those gas cards to a hospital, and they are going to be giving them to the families that are linked to their social services department.
I love it. That's brilliant. And like you've streamlined, you made it so easy. And here's the other thing I think is so important about these gas cards is some people are going to be in more financial need than others. And so, but it's not about the money always. It's about having this card that that somebody donated because they care about you. And I think that part is maybe as powerful as the actual dollars, is knowing that somebody else was willing to step out of their life and to see you in the place where you were struggling and meet you there. So that's what I hear your organization is doing and doing so well. And so what we are going to do is going to put a link to the organization, of course, in this episode. And the gas car challenge is going to be over. However, not challenge, I guess it sounds like a contest, but the gas card campaign. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. It's going to be over, but like there's going to always be an opportunity to support the organization. And I don't know, maybe we can come up with something special from related to this podcast. We'll talk offline on that. And so thanks for sharing about that. And you said we in the organization. So do you, how do you, I'm really like, wow, how do you do this organization with everything else that you have on your plate? And are there other people involved in supporting the organization?
Yeah, so I have a board. With nonprofits or any incorporation, you have to have a board. And not making this a business podcast, but just so you kind of understand. So I have a board. And our board, it's a working board. So sometimes you have companies and the board just, makes high level decisions and all that. For us, they're actually involved in looking at really every single detail with a fine tooth comb. I have a mom, and one thing to know, everybody who's in my organization on the board, they either are a mom to a child that has a condition or they are closely tied to it. One person is a pediatric nurse that works in oncology and all these different specialties. So she understands from a medical standpoint. But the we and here for a reason are people who understand what it means to either be denied, either have services, or either be on the other side of the fence. Now we've gotten past through, the hustle and bustle and the bumps and all that stuff. Um, but it's really a group effort to make sure that it's not just me, it's not just my idea, it's others. So I want, you know, it's one thing for me to know that I'm helping a family, but it's another thing for these four other women to feel that same, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The nurse who's on my board, she hasn't experienced having to call an organization and being denied, but she's seen families who are in the hospital and who are being discharged but can't leave because they don't have enough money for their car for gas, right? She
Mm-hmm.
understands from that side. So the we is really it's all of our hearts, all of our thoughts, all of our minds, all of our experiences combined into one, and having that same heartfelt gratitude towards our recipients, the ideas and all that. So yeah, it's amazing.
It's brilliant. And I am just so in awe, to be honest, and inspired to see what you've created. And I know it wasn't easy and it's probably taken so much work, but the way that the way that it sounds about what you've created in terms of this community and this team, it it just seems like such a natural expression of who you are. And I love to see when people truly lean into their gifts like you have, to see what's created. And
Thank
it's
you.
just incredible. So
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Anybody can do it. Some people get um what is the word? Intimidated by, nonprofit, and you have to go through all these certain rules and every dot your I's, cross your T's. Yes, you have to do that. But if you have the passion behind what you're trying to do for the community, it'll come. Like, I'm a computer science major, but here I am as a nonprofit founder.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
didn't
think that's a good point because I think some of us forget when we see somebody that like you has done something like that. We think, oh, I could never do that. And we forget that you maybe didn't think you could never do it, but like when you did it, you had never done it either. And so it probably felt uncomfortable. You probably felt a little like, oh gosh, like what am I doing at certain times? But that's how it's supposed to be, that anytime we do something for the first time, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And so thank you for putting the note in about how anybody can do anything really that they want to do. It's just a matter of having that willingness to be uncomfortable with what it asks you to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously we've talked a little bit about you being a single mom, you doing this on your own. And you had mentioned earlier that you were totally open to talk about becoming a single mom and maybe and a little bit more about your divorce. And I guess what I'm curious about, and anything you want to share, but most specifically is, how do you see the relationship between having the kids that you have, the needs that they have specifically, and the results of your divorce? Is there any relationship there?
I don't, and let me make sure I'm getting your question right, because you like to, like, your questions is like got me thinking.
Well,
So
maybe I can simplify it. Well, what I'm saying, or there's statistically a higher number of divorces among parents that have children with medical needs or children with special needs. And I'm wondering if that had any part in your divorce.
yeah, so definitely it did. My daughter's condition is very rare to it doesn't even have a name. I wish I could say she has such and such syndrome, but there's no name. It's a
Yeah.
chromosome deletion on number 7. My
Mhm.
son, he's living with autism. That's more known, more familiar, easier to get services. But me, And if you remember me mentioning, I finished my degree after I had them. So here I am, yes, I'm a new mom, but I'm still trying to, move down the path of computer science, software engineer, be this techie person, right?
Yeah.
Of course, things get thrown off. That's kind of that unpredictable, even the day to day that I experience now. But with their condition came with a lot of time and dedication that I had to spend for them.
Yeah.
Um, in a marriage, right? It's two people. Hey, husband, I need some help. I can't go to their appointment. I got to go to work. Hey, husband, it's a lot of that's where that balance really, I would love for it to come into play, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's 50-50 or 60-40, 65-35, it's not like 90-10.
Yeah.
But for me, it really was like 90-10, 95, 5%,
Mm-hmm.
with me, carrying a lot. And in the marriage, I really do believe that yes, you're married, you're a wife, but you're also the person who you are. You're also Melanie. You're also, whoever's listening, you're your individual
Mm-hmm.
person. And then you are the mom, right? And then whatever else you have. But if things are getting neglected because you're spending so much time as mom, you need that fulfillment from your partner as, your wife now. Husband, I need you to fulfill my needs. And I'm not even talking about, nitty gritty. I just mean like in general, in the five love languages, those
Mm-hmm.
type of key things. It's very important. And when you add on the layer of having a child with a condition and you don't know what's going on, there's a lot of pressure. And if you're not getting that help, which I was not getting,
Mm-hmm.
my husband had a very demanding job, like very demanding. I kind of felt like a single mom a lot. Um, I I didn't know what to do, right? I like I said, this is a candid conversation. I even thought about, oh my gosh, do I need to put my kids up for adoption? Like, is this just like what did I do wrong? Why is my marriage failing? What is going on?
Yeah.
Obviously I didn't do that, but that's real, you
Yeah.
know, and to even get to that point, and still not have the help going through therapy, counseling, doing those steps, sometimes it just doesn't work out. And that's where, unfortunately, I'll say, the selfishness may come into place. You only have one life to live. Do you want to be, did I want to be miserable and try to figure things out while trying to figure out the life for my daughter? No. So
Mm-hmm.
we tried it, but it did. I know that was a long winded answer,
No,
but
it's great. Thank you. Keep
yeah,
going.
it it did stem around their conditions because one being a new mom, but then two being a new mom or a new parent to a child that has a condition that you don't even know anything about. Huh? I I need some help. And yeah, it wasn't working.
It sounded like, or it sounds like you needed help, like physical, like, hey, get to the appointment. And it also, but it just sounds like that what you were looking for in a partner wasn't available. And
Hmm.
so for you, that's where, you said, well, is it selfish? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of value even asking that question, but it sounds like you got to a point where you knew that it wasn't aligned with where you wanted to go with your life with the kids that you have.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also one key important piece that I will mention too. Before we even had kids, my marriage wasn't the type of marriage where it's, oh, this is my best friend. And like we weren't friends. And that probably sounds
Hmm.
strange, but we went from, oh, I met this guy. Oh, we're boyfriend and girlfriend. Oh, we're engaged. Oh, we're married. Like there was not really that relationship, friendship building, which is so important. Now I realize it now, right? And it takes two to tango too. So, um, but that was another key component as well. That foundation when Janelle and Julius were born, and I don't know, it would it have been different if we were, best friends? Maybe I don't know. I don't know what the past would look like, but I will mention that just for listeners who may not be married or who may be engaged or whatever and have a child with a condition or thinking about having children, you really gotta make sure the foundation for your marriage is, good. There may be some cracks, but
Yeah.
if there's not anything at all, you don't want to build a house on quicksand. And we had a marriage on quicksand.
Do you think because you didn't have that friendship that quicksand, like that was a big part of it?
I do, but not. I I don't think that was the root behind
Yeah.
everything. I do think it probably was part of it because we didn't have really anything to go back to. It wasn't like oh, let's kind of rekindle what we used to have from friendships and let's go on dates and all that. We tried that as we were going through the counseling phase, but it didn't feel natural. You know,
Yeah.
it was kind of late.
How old were your kids when? Because how old are because you have twins? I don't know if that's clear yet, but I mean, I think it's clear. But how old are your twins now?
They're 8. It's
8.
November. Yeah, November now. They'll be 9 on December 14th. So they're
Ooh,
8 right
coming
now.
up. And how old were they when you separated from your husband?
It was 2015, so they were, oh gosh, well, I haven't raised my numbers. Even though
I'm like, I can't even
I'm a
send
computer
it.
person, right? But I have to count on my finger. They were what, 3.5,
Okay.
2011.
I was just trying to get perspective of how long you had been with these kids
Mhm.
during this relationship. It sounds like that wasn't totally working for you. So that's why I was asking. So
Yeah, they were little over 3, but by the time our separation, we knew about both their conditions. My son was diagnosed with autism at 2.5. My daughter, she was 11 months when we found out that she had the chromosome abnormality.
and she's pretty dependent at this time, right? So she's fully dependent on other people to care for her. Was she so I imagine at that point she was, I mean, I guess this is a silly question. She was 11 months old. Of course she was dependent on everyone to take care of her. But did you know at that time that she would remain dependent?
Mm-mm,
When did
no.
you learn that?
Um, when she was about 5 or 6, and a part of that is a direct result of her condition being so rare. You know, trying to ask doctors or doing research, there wasn't really anything to compare it to or to
Yeah.
even look at as a reference. It kind of was day by day, year by year. But really, when she was about 5, and with her having Julius as her twin, even though he has autism, he's very high functioning. There's a lot of comparisons, right? Some people have these booklets. 1 month you should be doing this, 3 months,
Yeah.
6 months. Yeah, we had that, but real life
You had
example,
like the control, the
right?
control feature.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I'd say about 5 is when I realized. I still don't, still to this day, I don't know how long it's going to be. It We don't know, but yeah, about
Like
5
you
is.
don't know how, like, what do you mean by it? Do you know how long it's going to be?
I don't know how long it's going to be as far as a full dependence.
Got
Uh,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
Cause I guess she's only 8, or almost 9.
Hmm.
So, and I actually have to remind myself a lot of that too. I don't know who I was talking to, but my son is 11 and he has a lot of impulsive behaviors. Actually, it was my mother-in-law. She was counseling us on some school stuff. She's a school psychologist, and she was just reminding us of like maturity and like that most 11-year-olds, because also I have a 13-year-old and he would be very impulsive. He's at the peak of his teenness, and it's like he's gotten more impulsive before he gets the maturity to kind of control that. And I was like, oh, like you forget that these kids grow and change, and hopefully for the positive, and where they can become more independent. And anyhow, so that is interesting. Yeah, because she's quite young.
Yeah, she is. We're working though.
Yeah, and we haven't got into the details, but I know you are working very, very hard, and I get to see you on social media to see some stuff that you guys do. And actually, speaking of social media, you mentioned that social media has been something that's really helped you, and I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Oh yeah, it's helped me in ways for myself and also just as a networking platform. There's a lot of people that I talk to, they just think this whole facade about social media and you only post pictures when it's perfect lighting and da da da. Yes, people do that way. But I love social media just from a connection standpoint. I can mention that's how I met you, right?
Mm-hmm.
The power of the hashtag. That stuff is very helpful. If I'm
Yeah.
going through something, hashtag special needs mom, even though some people don't like the word special needs, you kind of gotta look for more common known phrases,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's been so helpful. And in 2000 and was it 15, 16? I think 2000, oh my gosh, 17. I can't remember what year it was. I actually I took it social media a step further. Instead of just being on Facebook and connecting with friends and family, I went a step further and started sharing more about what I was going through. And the connections just kept on coming. And I'm not a huge um influencer
Influencer.
that, yeah, no, it's not me, but it definitely just the connections, whether it's a DM or a message or somebody emails me or conversations like this. It's so helpful, especially when it's relatable and talking to somebody who understands. And then on the flip side, it's helpful for those people that are kind of those ghosts. I call them ghost social media folks because they're on there every day. They may not interact, they may not engage, but they see your post. Um, Luckily, I haven't ran into any trolls. That's the new word, but it's all just like a huge family. I call them an Instagram family, my Facebook family. That's what it is.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting timing because right now there's a lot of conversations around the social media platforms that's not good. And a lot of people are saying, okay, we're out. And it's obviously for very different reasons than normally the negative conversation around social media. But I'm like you, where I have gotten the opportunity to meet so many people on different platforms, and I don't struggle with comparison as much. But it sounds like you have cultivated a community through social media, and so I guess I just wanted to make sure that people know that that's a possibility and consider how they might cultivate something for their own community on the gram or on Facebook or any of the new platforms that are coming out. Well, let's wrap up here. I so thoroughly enjoyed getting to know you more, learning a little bit about your story, being so inspired by you. Is there anything that you have to say to close us out?
I would just say, no matter who is listening, whether you are a mom, aunt, friend, or you just stumbled upon this podcast, I really would just encourage you to keep you first.
Hmm.
Right. And I think that's huge because um, the mental component of how things are, especially now, some people haven't left their house because COVID, or you may have even been affected with somebody, you lost a family member or lost your job, whatever the case may be. Remember you in the midst of everything. Whether it's taking that 2 hours and not doing anything, or if you like yoga, go on your porch or go on a walk. Um, just remember you. Everything will fall into place how it should fall into place, because everything happens for a reason. So I really would just hope folks would keep that in mind, especially now.
Yeah. Well, I wholeheartedly agree that everything happens for a reason. We don't always like that, but it does. And that it's a really good advice. And so I would encourage you guys, if you're like, oh, I don't think I can do that. I think it's my third or fourth episode. I do have an episode specifically on self-care. And it points a lot to what Melanie was talking about, not just, drinking water and doing yoga, but actually how you can relate to yourself as somebody that you can put first. And so if you struggle in that area, I would invite you to go check out that older episode. And before we close out, Melanie, how can people connect with you if they would love to be part of your community on the medias?
Yeah, on Instagram, you can find me under Melanie Oates. Oates has an E in it, Melanie Oates. You can find me there. And if you know someone or if you need help, you can go to my nonprofits website. The shorter version is hfar.org. And you can go to our website and get to our social media from there, but it's best to go to the website. But yeah, definitely would love to connect with others. And I really appreciate you having me on here. It really kind of felt like therapy and talking to, a newfound sister. So
Yes, I love it. I know I always end these conversations just so filled up and so feeling connected. That's one of my most favorite feelings. And so likewise. And again, we will make sure that we have in the show notes both easy ways to connect with Melanie and to her organization. And we will see you guys in the next conversation. Happy Thanksgiving. This is going to come out the day before Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody. So there you have it. That's our episode for today. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I wanted to make sure I left you with a resource, especially since we talked so much about self-care and what that really looks like as a mom to a special needs child. I have a resource that I've developed. It's called the Special Needs Mom Guide to Self-Care. And what you're going to find is you're going to find a very applicable and actionable and insightful guide to what it might look like for you to shift your relationship to self-care. We know your struggles, and so I also know your excuses and your reasons for not having self-care. And I think you're going to love it. All you have to do is head to the show notes of this episode. You're going to find a link. That link's going to take you to a page where you just enter your email, and I'll email the guide right over to you. Let me know what you think. I cannot wait to hear about your results. One more thing before we officially wrap up this show. Sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts, I have the experience of wanting more. I'm listening at the very end thinking, I sure wish that episode didn't end. I invite you, if you feel in any way the same way, I invite you to the Special Needs Mom podcast community, which is a free group that I host on Facebook, where we as a community of fellow moms who listen to this podcast and are experiencing life in similar shoes, get to talk to one another, get to share stories, get to actually interact. I hope you'll consider joining. See you over there.